Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Summer in Italy live event. We're so excited to have you all here today. Starting to see lots of folks filter in, so welcome, welcome. We'll give everyone just a minute or two to join, but as you do start filtering in, please let us know in the chat where you're calling in from today or where you're viewing from today. Joyce from Green Valley, Arizona. Hi, Joyce. Ben from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hello, hello, welcome. All right, we've got folks from all over. Julie, Seattle, it is quite early for you. Welcome, good morning. Thanks for being here. All right, we've got lots of folks coming in, seeing mostly US and Canada so far, but a wide spread across North America. Virginia, South Carolina, Vegas, hello. So go ahead and pop in the chat where you're calling in from today. Like I said, we'll just give everyone another minute or so to log on and get started. We've got a really exciting panel here today. Our 3 Italy experts will be sharing everything you need to know to plan the best trip this summer or whenever you are going to Italy. And if you do have a trip to Italy planned, go ahead and pop that in the chat as well. Are you heading over in the next few months? I'd love to know your travel plans as well. Napoli in June. Ooh, that's going to be amazing, Wendy. October for a week in Rome. I love Rome in October. It's so beautiful. Saturday. Wow, Janet, your trip is right around the corner. How exciting. So lots of folks heading over in the very near future, which is very, very exciting indeed. Venice to Rome cruise. Oh, that sounds nice, Michael. All right. So while everyone gets situated, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Lindsay. I am the community manager at Walks and Devour. And like I said, we're very excited you're here, and we've got a great lineup of speakers who are going to be answering all of your questions about Italy in the summer. We want you to get the most out of these 40 minutes. And so please feel free to drop any questions in the chat, and my teammates, Nikki and Tuche, will respond to you there. So I'd also like to know, where in Italy are you visiting on your trip this summer or whenever you're visiting? So some of you are answering in the chat already, but I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll, which you should see on the right-hand side of your screen. So which Italian destinations will you visit on your next trip? You can select multiple options. So just curious to see where everyone's heading. I'll give everyone a couple minutes to respond. Lots of folks going to Rome. Amalfi Coast is beautiful in the summertime. Naples. And if you don't currently have a trip planned, I see some are responding with that as well. That is perfectly okay. We're here to provide all the travel inspo you need. So if you're just here for the Italy information and you don't know when you're going to be visiting exactly, we're of course happy to have you here as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to just introduce our brands really quickly, Walks Tours and Devour Tours, for those of you who might not know us. Walks, also known as Walks of Italy, started 15 years ago in Rome with small group tours of the Colosseum and Vatican museums. But today we offer tours across Italy and in more than 20 cities throughout Europe and North America. We offer a lot of really cool, unique, special access experiences. So if you've ever wanted to be completely alone in the Vatican museums, you can do that on one of our Walks tours. Same with St. Mark's Basilica in Venice. We have an after hours tour that runs after it's closed to the public, and you get the entire basilica to yourself, which is really, really exciting. We're the only operator that offers these experiences, which is really, really special. And then, of course, we know you're probably not just coming to Italy for sightseeing. So it's, of course, no secret that Italy has some of the best food in the world as well. Devour Tours is our foodie side of the company. We operate small group food tours in several Italian cities, Rome, Bologna, Florence, Naples, and Venice. And we started in Madrid in 2012, but of course are now operating in Italy and throughout Europe and North America as well. So it's all about connecting travelers to local culture through small businesses, family-run restaurants, shops, etc., which is, of course, the most fun way to experience a destination, in our opinion. And we hope you'll stick around to the end of the event, because we actually have a discount code to share with you that you can use on any of our Italy sightseeing and food tours. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome our speakers. First up is Sammi DiBacco. Sammi is an Italian-American dual citizen who's lived in Rome since 2017. She's a writer, content creator, and marketing consultant who helps travelers experience Italy authentically. Through her Instagram, TikTok, and personalized consultations, she shares real-world tips, no cliches or overhyped spots, drawing from her 8 years of experience in tourism. And when she's not working, she's exploring Rome's streets with her dog, Spritz. Welcome, Sammi. Let me just bring you on stage. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you, Sammi. So just as an icebreaker question, I'm going to be asking all of the panelists this. What destination in Italy, if you could spend summer anywhere in the country, where would it be and why?
I mean, obviously, anywhere that is on the sea. I am a Cancer. My birthday is in July, so I am obsessed with being in the beautiful sea. I prefer the Turanian side, so the west side of Italy. Any island there is good. If I had to pick, I would pick Sicily because the food is incredible.
Beaches and amazing food. I mean, what more could you want, especially for an Italian summer vacation? All right. Thank you, Sammi. We're excited to have you here. Next up, let's welcome Kate McCulley. Kate is a seasoned travel expert and trusted voice in solo female travel. She launched her blog in 2010, and she's visited over 80 countries, and Italy is her true passion. She's explored all 20 regions. She's lived in Italy. She goes back regularly. She even met her husband in Italy and plans to buy a home there soon. Kate believes that the key to a perfect Italy trip is slowing down and exploring off the beaten path destinations like Parma, Tropea, and the Aeolian Islands. She's originally from Boston. She lives in Prague with her husband and 2 cats, but you can often find her in Italy, where she returns several times each year. Welcome, Kate.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you here as well. So Kate, same question for you. What would your dream Italian summer destination be out of all the 20 regions that you've explored?
Well, it's very hard to narrow it down to one, but I especially love this one that's right behind me. That's the Aeolian Islands. They are off the northeast coast of Sicily. They are 7 islands. They're a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They're volcanic, and you can climb volcanoes. You can eat amazing food, and every island has its own personality, which is really cool. And a lot of people, when you see Aeolian Islands on an itinerary, they say, oh, go for a day, go for 3 days. No, you go for minimum a week, and you explore them thoroughly, and you have the best time.
That sounds like such a perfect way to spend a summer vacation in Italy. All right, so last but certainly not least, we have Skyler Mapes, who is the co-founder of EXAU Olive Oil. It's a luxury Italian olive oil brand that she launched with her husband Giuseppe in 2017. Together, they harvest fruit from century-old trees along the Ionian coast of Calabria, Italy. Skyler's a native Californian with a background in wine and design, but she's also a level 2 olive oil sommelier and co-author of the recent book, The Olive Oil Enthusiast. And in addition to caring for hundreds of olive trees, she's currently pursuing a master's in olive cultivation. And when she's not working on their olive oil business, Skyler and Giuseppe explore Calabria and offer travel advising through EXAU. Welcome, Skyler.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you for being here, Skyler. So same question for you. What would your dream Italian summer destination be if you could spend the summer anywhere in Italy?
That's not fair because I'm already here. There's no reason to leave Calabria. I already live on the water. So if I had to leave this area to go somewhere else, I honestly would probably go to somewhere in Puglia, in Salento, and more the southern end of Puglia, just because the water is incredible. It's very similar to the water that we have on our side of Calabria. The food is incredible. The wine is delicious. The people are wonderful. They also make incredible extra virgin olive oil. So second home for me.
Incredible. So I'm definitely sensing a theme here of Southern Italy and the islands, which sounds just like a dream come true. All right, so I'm going to take our presentation down now and we'll get started with the Q&A. My first question is for Sammi. You're based in Rome, and of course, Jubilee is on everyone's mind right now. Is this summer going to be too crowded with travelers with all the celebrations going on, all the, of course, right now for people visiting, this week or next, the conclave, of course. How can visitors make the most of their time in popular destinations like Rome? Should they look into booking things ahead? Are there any ways to really beat the crowds even? What advice would you give for someone who's visiting a popular destination in high season?
Definitely on everyone's mind. I wish you guys could actually hear the chaos that is happening outside of my window right now because the white smoke just came out at Vatican City.
Oh.
I just got a text message that we have elected a new pope, people. So
wow.
Yeah, so there's going to be people literally there's horns and people screaming outside. I live pretty close to the Vatican, so I'm sure people are sprinting to St. Peter's Square right now. So crazy, sorry that this is all happening right now.
Speaking of excitement, yeah.
Very exciting. But in general, getting back to just how can you travel to Rome during the Jubilee year? I think that the same advice that I would give people traveling to Rome at any time of year is explore outside of the main tourist sites. So go to the Vatican, go to the Colosseum, of course, but also go to smaller neighborhoods, explore the gardens like Villa Borghese, Villa Pamphili, come over here into Prati, which is much more calm. I feel like people kind of hit the Vatican City and then dip out, and it's actually a really beautiful and calm local neighborhood. Definitely make reservations in advance, but Rome is a reservation city anyway, so make dinner reservations in advance, be booking Colosseum and Vatican in advance, also Borghese Gardens. Most other museums you should be fine though. But yeah, it's a lot all at once, conclave Jubilee combination, but I guess we have a new pope, so we'll find out after the webinar who he is.
Yeah, look at that timing. I mean, we couldn't have, I promise we didn't plan it this way, but speaking of exciting things happening in Rome, we'll be looking forward to seeing who that new pope is. And then Kate, for people who might want to get away from the crowds altogether, we did get several questions from people, just basically saying, how can I get off the beaten path? Where do tourists not go in Italy? What are some lesser known destinations that are worth checking out, especially for a summer trip? Which lesser known or off the beaten path destinations would be your number one picks for people visiting this summer?
Well, I'm going to give you advice for two different kinds of destinations, for seaside destinations and for cities. Also, by the way, Italians call it the sea, not the ocean. If you call it the ocean, that is a huge American tell that I kind of learned the hard way. First of all, for the sea, one thing is that there are destinations everyone has heard of where international tourists always go. Then that's usually Cinque Terre, the Amalfi Coast, Capri is a big one, Taormina in Sicily. But in all of these destinations, there is a place nearby that is more popular with Italian tourists, not international tourists. And because of that, the food is much better, it's cheaper, and the shopping is much better because Italians like to vacation in places with good food and good shopping. And so some places that I would recommend, rather than staying in Cinque Terre, I really love the town of Camoli, which is on the Italian Riviera. It's beautiful, it's much more Italian focused, and you can take the train to Cinque Terre for the day when you want to go there. And also in terms of islands down in the south, a lot of people love going to Capri. I personally love Ischia, and I saw somebody in the chat is going there. Ischia is probably my favorite overall island in Italy. It's just a 45-minute ride from Naples, and because it's practically the city of Naples, they have really, really good pizza, and they have hot springs, they have beaches, they have a castle. Oh, just lovely. Now, in terms of going to cities, the big cities are always going to be very busy: Rome, Florence, Venice. And I encourage you to take a look at kind of the second-tier cities. One that I really love is Parma. It is between Bologna and Milan on the train line, so it's super easy to get there. And it has all of the wonderful food of Emilia-Romagna, but it's also a lot more colorful than the other cities and has really great shopping too. And if you're looking for something a little cooler in the summer heat, the town of Trento, which is up kind of at the very beginning of the Dolomites. Trento is a pastel, lovely town. It has murals everywhere. And if you love to be outdoors, that's a great place to base. I also met my husband there, so it means a lot to me for that reason too.
Oh, it's amazing. Sounds like a beautiful, just like storybook romantic place. And then last but not least, in terms of where to go in Italy, Skyler, you are our resident food expert, olive oil expert. Which cities or regions would you recommend for foodie travelers? I'm sure every region in Italy has incredible food, but if that is the main reason why someone is traveling, which cities or regions would you recommend for the best food and drinks?
I think there's only one right answer personally, and it's going to be Naples. All day, every day. For me, Napoli has the best food, hands down, in Italy. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I do tend to lean towards the stronger flavors from the south, lots of tomatoes. My mother-in-law is an amazing cook, and she makes a lot of dishes that are inspired by the Napolitano cuisine. But for me, the home of pizza, the home of proper Parmigiana is the best place to eat in Italy because it's really hard to go wrong there. Like, it's hard to find really bad pizza, and bad restaurants don't survive. They don't have a long life in Naples. I also really like the city because I'm from Oakland, California, another city that is very often misunderstood, has a lot of rougher edges, I guess you could say, is not as vanilla. And Naples reminds me a lot of home. It is a place that it's kind of grungy on the edges, but in the perfect way. It has so much history. We have to remember that Naples was the capital of southern Italy. And so there's just so much history there. And it's really rich. It's like a place where you can go and you can see that people dedicate 100% of themselves to everything they do, whether they're like getting dressed up in leopard print pants and hopping on a Vespa to go somewhere, or they're making the best Parmigiana in the world. Aside from Naples, if you're going to go over to Puglia, Lecce is my favorite place in Puglia to eat, hands down. And then Taormina obviously has really good food. Sicily is a whole other ballgame. But if you're in more like central Italy, Arezzo overall is probably one of my favorite places to eat.
So many good options no matter where you are in the country. And yeah, Naples is just one of those places that I think a lot of people do misunderstand, or maybe doesn't have quite the best, reputation, but it's well worth visiting. For anyone who's in doubt, just go to Naples, eat the pizza, have a wonderful time. So speaking of traveling around the country, Sammi, Rome is, of course, a really popular base city. And we got a lot of questions from folks who are maybe basing themselves in Rome, but they're interested in traveling around Italy some more, maybe down to the Amalfi Coast, heading up to Florence, etc. So what tips did you have for people who are planning to use Rome as a base and traveling around? Do you need a car? How do you use public transport? And then also on a similar note, what are your favorite day trips from Rome?
Yeah, definitely. So my personal philosophy when it comes to day trips from any of the main drag in Italy, let's say, which would consist of Venice, Florence, Rome, Amalfi Coast, is if you can, to the best of your ability, avoid day tripping to any of those cities. That is what I would suggest. These are cities that already have huge numbers of tourists coming there, and the influx of day trippers really makes it even more crowded. So if you can avoid it, I know that you can't always, and sometimes people just really have a dream of they're going to be in Florence and they're dying to get to Venice, and it's like, yes, go take that day trip. But if you can take the time to really give these cities the time and energy that they deserve, that is what I would suggest. So when it comes to where I would think to go on a day trip from Rome, the region of Lazio, which is the region that Rome is incredibly underrated. I don't actually think a lot of people know that the region is called Lazio because it's not famous in any way except for Rome. So Rome is incredibly close to the seaside. So speaking about summer travel, if you would like to go to a beach town, there are a ton of great options really close to Rome. If you're going up north towards Tuscany, you have basically like Porto Santo Stefano, which is beautiful, amazing water, also has a very interesting history. You can also get to a beautiful Tuscan island off there, not necessarily a day trip, but also just something to keep in mind, the island of Giglio. Other places that you can go if you're looking for beach could be Fregene, which is where Romans go for beachside lunch. Doesn't have the most beautiful water, but it definitely has really fun restaurants and beach clubs and lots of really like local Roman vibes. Heading south towards Naples, one of my favorite beach towns to visit is the town of Sperlonga. And it actually almost looks like Greece because it has kind of these whitewashed buildings and really, really nice water. And it's about an hour and a half from Rome. Sperlonga, you could get to by train. Fregene, better by car. And Porto Santo Stefano, you can get there by train as well. If you're looking to go inland near to Rome, I would suggest looking at Tivoli, which is where former Roman cardinals would have their big villas that you can visit. So Villa d'Este, and then going back to ancient Roman times, Hadrian's Villa are very cool. And it's very relaxed, let's say. Not so many people go there. You can eat really well for a very good price. And also, if you love wine, every region, as I think Skyler mentioned, like every single region produces olive oil, produces wine. It's not just what you think of Tuscany, Puglia, Calabria, everybody produces these things in Italy. And you can go to Frascati, which again was where the Roman senators and the very rich Romans would escape the city, and they built these gorgeous villas on the hills just outside of Rome in the Castelli Romani. And there's also really great wine producers there. So these are places that are not so far. They're not going to be really crowded, and you will have a better understanding of like how Romans lived, because these are places that Romans went from ancient Roman times up until today.
Yeah, that's a really great point that, Romans probably aren't going down to the Amalfi Coast for a day. And, of course, if you're on vacation, you have limited time and sometimes you have to do what you got to do. But that's, I think, a really good suggestion is to really try and think of what's less crowded, what's closer, and it's probably going to end up being even more enjoyable as well if folks are open to it. So for Kate, we got a question from someone who studied abroad in Italy, I think they said 15 years ago, and they were curious about how the culture has changed over time. And I know you studied abroad in Italy, of course, 20 years ago as well, I think you said, and you've obviously been back many times since. So for those who might not be first-time visitors, for people who have visited maybe in the past, how has Italy and Italian culture changed over the years in ways that might help returning visitors manage their expectations?
Well, yes, I did study in Italy 20 years ago in Florence, and pretty much set me on the path to this whole career where I am now. Some advice that I give is, first of all, to consider that you have changed. And that's not to be mean or anything, but when I was 20 years old in Florence, one thing I remember the most is how my friends and I got hit on constantly, how the men were always all over us and in the clubs, and that doesn't happen anymore. Not just because we're not spring chickens anymore, but because we're older, we're more aware, and we're not easy marks in the same way. Something else that I will say, that ways that Italy has changed in terms of tourism and technology. One bit of tech that I really love is that Uber exists in much of Italy, not everywhere. Just the existence of rideshare apps makes it really easy to not walk home at night. And also another thing to keep in mind is that Airbnb is a scourge upon much of Italy and has displaced many locals from their homes. So if you do stay in Italy, I do recommend resisting the urge to have an apartment of your own and instead staying in a hotel that is actually zoned for tourism. And also another way that Italy has changed in the past 20 years is that these days, a lot of the tourism is very Instagram centric. you do see a lot of people who tend to go to the same exact destinations. I think like the past 5 years, Amalfi Coast has like gone like this in particular, just because everybody's wanting to go there. But you know, the good thing about that means that if you just get off the beaten path a little bit, you can actually really be away from all that kind of stuff. And you know, Skyler is from Calabria, and one place that I really love in Calabria is a place called Tropea. Now, that's another place that's more popular with Italians than with international tourists. But I mean, I feel like Tropea is what people think the Amalfi Coast is. It has beautiful tall cliffs, and it has a much nicer beach that you actually want to hang out on. I mean, the Amalfi Coast beaches, they're not like beaches to lie out on all day. They're, you know, they're just not. But yeah, there are ways to, yeah, there's a lot of Instagram tourism, but there are also a lot of ways to avoid it too.
Yeah, and that's such a good point, that Instagram versus reality is something that's so important to help manage folks' expectations, because I know I've, you know, just working on the social media side here at Walks, I've seen a lot of, you know, comments from guests and from travelers in general about, oh, this like really popular spot was just kind of a disappointment. And meanwhile, on the other hand, this off the beaten path place was amazing. So it just goes to show that there's, you know, just so much out there beyond what you see on social media all the time. So speaking of maybe a little bit off the beaten path experiences, Skyler, we got a couple questions actually about the olive harvest. And I think the summer will be a little bit too early for it, but for folks who are interested in maybe olive oil experiences or just foodie experiences in general, what kind of culinary themed experiences are out there for foodie travelers who are visiting in the next few months?
So olive harvest, the time that it takes place varies greatly on the region. So in Sicily and also here in Calabria, because it's just so much warmer down here, we're starting harvest actually at the very end of September. Now, like in Sicily, they're basically starting September 20th, which is really scary. And then in Calabria, in the warmer parts near the coast, we're starting the first or second week of October. And then over in Puglia, depending on how far they want to take they mostly grow a cultivar called Coratina, and depending on how much they want the fruit to ripen, you'll find them harvesting anywhere from like mid-October all the way through to November. And then if you get into the hills, you're going to see people taking harvest all the way into January, just because the olives are able to maintain health and they don't have to worry about fruit flies because of the elevation. So you're able to have olive oil experiences along the coast, I would say, from like the beginning of October to November. And then if you're looking to spend more time inland in the hills, you're going to have harvest taking place all the way from like November near to December. I'm going to be honest with you guys. If you have the opportunity to do an olive harvest, great. If a smaller, we don't offer that at EXAU because it's really stressful. I don't want to scream at people while I'm harvesting. Like, I'm stressed out. I don't want you guys to be stressed out, right? So a lot of people that have like smaller mills or smaller facilities won't offer those experiences, but they will offer opportunity to like taste their oil at a restaurant they partnered with, if that makes sense. Just because it's also like a liability issue, right? And then wine experiences, harvesting of grapes will take place very similarly anywhere from from September all the way through to about October. And then there are some places that offer the opportunity to like fresh grapes, they might open some barrels. And if they have wine that's in barrels, the wine will be about a year old at that point. The cool thing is that you can also do barrel tasting of wine at a winery in the wintertime, because they'll have product that has already been crushed or pressed, and then it's sitting in barrel for a month or two before they're actually going to tank it. So that's also always an option. So kind of like no matter what time of year you're going, there will be something. It's just a matter of like, if there's a particular place that you want to go to, like you have a very specific winery that you have tasted their product before, or, olive oil company tasted their product, I highly recommend reaching out to them and seeing if they have an opportunity to do a tasting with them. And then obviously, of course, I see that there's some links coming in for like making fresh pasta. Those are going to be things that you're going to be able to do year round, because flour is available year round for seasonal food. definitely reach out directly to the places that you actually want to go and spend time at.
Yeah, seasonality is everything in Italy, just in general when it comes to looking for what foods to eat, produce that's available, and of course the experiences that you might want to have as well. So Sammi, going back to you, talking a little bit about Italian culture, what, in your opinion, is the biggest misconception about Italy or Italian culture that a lot of visitors get wrong? And what should they know before they go?
Oh, there's so much. I actually talk about this on my social media a lot because I feel like with the rise of social media, while it is a great way to disseminate information, it is also a great way to disseminate misinformation, as we know. So I would say probably two of the biggest misconceptions about Italy would be that there is this rigid set of rules that you need to abide by when you come here, like no cappuccino after 11 a.m. or you get sent to prison. You cannot wear sneakers. Italians don't wear sneakers. I hear this all the time. I think people might think that Italians like wear a three-piece suit in their day-to-day life. This is not the case. Like if you see Italians, particularly in Rome, if they're not over the age of 75 and they're wearing a suit, it's because they're going to work. Okay. So I would say wear what is comfortable for you. You don't have to dress like a local, and particularly in Rome. And I know we talked about like Naples in this webinar as well a lot, is that Italians can be perceived as aggressive or rude because Italian as a language compared to native English speakers, and particularly it's a lot of North Americans that we have in the webinar today. Me being from the Midwest, I'm from Chicago originally, we're very like courteous and very, oh sorry, did I hit you there? It's like you're always apologizing, and Italians are like, oh scusa dai, and it's very animated and colorful the way that they communicate. And sometimes you'll even overhear a conversation and you're like, before I spoke Italian, it's like, are they arguing? It's like, no, they're just talking about where they're going to dinner, but it's just a different style of communication. So I would say don't be offended if it sounds like someone is being aggressive towards you. It's probably just the way that they communicate.
Yeah, I can totally relate as a fellow Midwesterner living in the south of Spain. It is just that passion and the excitement and zest that I think is very common to, this Mediterranean part of Europe.
Yes.
Very, very fun and exciting, but can be a little off-putting, I think, to some other North Americans who might not be used to it. So Kate, you are, of course, our resident solo female travel expert, and we did get several questions from women who are going to be visiting Italy on their own. So what advice would you have for them? How to stay safe? Should they try and learn some of the language? What tips do you have for solo female travelers who are visiting Italy?
Well, I have a lot of tips for solo female travelers, including a guide to solo female travel in Italy on my site, adventurouskate.com. The homepage will direct you to the solo female travel guides, and you can find everything there. I'll give you some tips that are good for general solo female travel and a few that are specific for Italy. First of all, it's really important to research your destination thoroughly. Don't just show up on a whim. Take the time to read about it in advance, get to know what the neighborhoods are, and just learn about those kinds of things. Of course, keep an eye on your belongings. If you carry a purse, I recommend you carry a purse that is crossbody, so it kind of hangs around like this, and that zips, and that you can keep a hand on. That's good advice for just about anywhere. I was just at Mardi Gras in New Orleans, huge crowds on Bourbon Street, and I had my hand on my purse the whole time. And it's always good to keep in touch with somebody at home who is familiar with your itinerary, know where you'll be and when. And here are a few that you need to be a little extra cautious about in Italy. I want to talk about alcohol. I don't think that's really talked about often enough with women with traveling solo and keeping yourself safe. But often in Italy, if you're dining alone, if you're an obvious tourist, and if a chef or a waiter takes a liking to you, they'll bring you some extra wine just to be like, oh, here you go, pretty lady. You don't have to drink it. Stick to one or two drinks and that's it. If they bring you a gift, you are not obligated to drink it, because the more you drink, probably the more you'll bring you, and the more you don't have the same level of defenses that you would have ordinarily. So just be cautious about drinking. Sample the wine, but don't have too much of it. Also, pickpocketing, something everybody talks about, is something that you do have to be a little extra cautious about in Italy, especially when you're in crowds. Like I said, wear the purse that's crossbody and keep your hand on it. And another thing that I find really helpful in Italy as a woman is to dress to blend in a little bit. Now, the average Italian tends to dress, especially in the cities, tends to dress much better than the typical American. So I do find it's helpful to dress up a little bit in Italy. Don't wear any athletic wear. Of course, sneakers are fine, but don't wear like gym clothes, those kinds of things. Don't wear t-shirts that have slogans on them. Don't wear like your university shirt or sports team, that kind of thing. And Italian women do tend to love their sunglasses and wear a lot of black and just tend to look more intentional and put together, no matter what your specific style is on top of that. And of course, your goal is not to pass as Italian. You know, that's not the goal. Your goal is to look like you're a longtime resident. And when you look like a longtime resident, scam artists don't mess with you.
Yes, that's a very good point. And I think a lot of folks might try and worry too much about blending in as like, oh, I don't look, Italian. But yes, well, long-term resident, I think would be a very good kind of happy medium there between too touristy and, native Italian.
Same advice for Thailand or Mexico. I mean, you're obviously not trying to pass as Thai or Mexican, just supposed to look like a long-term resident.
Yes. So we're almost at time. Skyler, I have one more question for you. Italian food, of course, is something that a lot of visitors not only travel to Italy for, but a lot of visitors might even have this idea in their head of they know what Italian food is already, and they think they know what to expect. So what are some lesser known dishes, especially seasonal options for the summer that guests should look out for?
Salad, everything. I love all the Italian salads. Octopus salad, insalata di riso, which is a rice salad that a lot of Italians will take with them to the beach. If a restaurant has it, I see that as a really good sign because it's a place that is making food it's like summertime food. If you're in the south, especially in Calabria, in Puglia, in Campania, you will definitely find dishes like parmigiana, which eggplant, parm, okay, not chicken. They're not doing chicken parm. We're doing eggplant parm. But I want to say like the salad, everything, because you've never had seafood salad like Italians do seafood salad. Because they put so many different types of seafood and then also a lot of different vegetables. And like, it's just so incredibly delicious. And then also they eat a lot of bacala, which is a salt cod. At least in Calabria they do. And so they will have that also as a salad, or sometimes they'll fry it. There's things that when you eat, you realize, oh, this definitely actually makes sense to be an Italian dish, but it's not something that would be top of mind, like a pasta with tomato sauce or a lasagna or meatballs. It's fresh food, very easy to put together, like a tomato salad, unassuming. That's always kind of like my favorite thing to eat in the summertime because it's very simple, straightforward, and you don't have to think about it too much. And then obviously always keep an eye out for really good antipasta with cured olives and anchovies, like anchovy sotolio with a little bit of vinegar. My mother-in-law makes them and they're probably one of my favorite things, but they're just cured anchovies in filet. And you can't go wrong with that.
So simple yet so delicious. Yeah. It's a little bit early for dinner here in Spain, but I'm getting hungry already. And I think probably a lot of our guests are too. All right. We are just about at time. So thank you, Skyler, Sammi, and Kate so much for sharing your expertise here today. I did want to offer everyone who's watching just a 10% discount code for your next tour with Walks or Devour. Summer Italy 10. You can use this code when you're checking out and get 10% off. This will also be in an email that you'll get as soon as, not as soon as this is over, but within an hour or so. So of course, we'd love to have you on tour with us if you're visiting Italy this summer. And last but not least, Sammi, can you let everyone know where to find you online?
Yeah, definitely. So I am on all the main social platforms, let's say, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My handle is Sammi_I am, or you can you can search Sammi Life in Italy. That's what my name is on there. And my website, which I think they shared at the beginning of the chat, which is Italy by Sammi. I have my Rome ebook on there. So if you're coming to Rome and you want all of my recommendations in one place, I have the ebook that you can go download. And then I also do help people with their trips. So if you want to book a time to speak with me one-on-one, similar to this, but we just get to chat, you can also do that on my site.
Perfect. Thank you. And Kate, can you remind everyone of your blog and your social handles so people can find you as well?
Yep, my site is adventurouskate.com. You can find me at Adventurous Kate on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook, any social network where you are.
All right, perfect. And Skyler, last but not least, can you remind everyone of where you are online and also your olive oil brand if they'd like to try it?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everything at Skyler Mapes. And then EXAU olive oil is our Italian olive oil brand. We ship to the US and Canada. We have an olive oil club. We talk about everything olive oil on there. And then we do also offer travel consulting, which you can find our contact form on exaoliveoil.com. And basically, we specialize in helping people navigate a trip in southern Italy. So if you want to do Sicily over to Puglia, you don't know how to do it, you don't know how you're going to figure the drive out, or you want to go from Naples down to Calabria and go wine tasting in a region you've never heard of, we can help you do that. Or maybe you have family down here and you've never met them before. We'll help you find your cousin. Not a problem. Giuseppe probably knows them too. They're probably cousins with him too, over on the hill.
It's a small world. All right. Well, thank you, Sammi, Kate, and Skyler, so much for your time today. I think this has just been so informative for anyone who's visiting Italy, not just in the summer, but even just all year round. I saw lots of great tips in the chat as well. And so I really hope this was helpful for everyone watching. And like I said, you'll get an email shortly with the discount code and also the replay of this event if you'd like to check it out again. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.